So, when did you first have an interest in being an animator?
So I had an interest in animation from a really early age. So when I was just 7 or 8, and I was already watching Looney Tunes and Warner Brothers cartoons and bits of Disney. And then the Aardman short film, A Grand Day Out, came out. And I saw this, and it's this amazing, cool, creative style, a funny script, crazy characters, and this lovely stop motion animation. And it was a British made film, and that definitely inspired me and sort of concreted the idea in my head that I could become an animator, and that animation or animation production is a career that I can dream of eventually doing. So that and alongside a passion for learning, loving technology, and we had this early Acorn Electron computer that my brother and I used to program on and make little paint programs and try and make things move. So sort of that and that combined, and a love for drawing, definitely sort of set me on the path towards eventually becoming an animator.
How did you go about studying to become an animator?
So to train and become an animator, I sort of stumbled my way through it initially. So for my college years, when I was doing my A-levels, I chose to do IT and business studies after some pretty poor career advice because I wanted to do animation. So instead of doing maths and an art-based A-level, it was IT and business studies, which weren't ideal, but I'm sure the IT was useful. And then I went on to art college, and to be able to get in there, I spent a lot of spare time, so working weekends in my parents' antique shop, and I was building up this portfolio, doing life drawing, graphic design and pastel sketches and all sorts of things, just to show that I had some art skills and that I was passionate about it. So I could submit this portfolio to get my place in art college. So I was actually kept up with my peers who were doing an art A-level. I managed to get into art college and studied a BTEC in Art and Design Foundation. And it's a 1-year course, and we covered all this array of art-based avenues, from architecture, fashion design, graphic design, life drawing, and probably a few more. And throughout that whole thing, I was always trying to tie it back in to animation. So whatever unit I was working on, I'd generally do something that was slightly animated as well. And my final thing in that year was a mixture of graphic design, illustration, and some animation made with Macromedia Flash that I was sort of self-taught. And then I went on to university. So I went to Southampton Solent Uni and studied a BA Honours in illustration and animation, which was this really cool course, spread over 3 years. And the first year was pretty intense. You'd be there in a classroom surrounded by 70 other students, sitting at your lightbox, doing page after page, learning how to bounce a ball, do a walk cycle, have someone walking in the wind, pushing a heavy object. All of these different processes to improve our ability to do frame by frame animation and do some lip syncing. And then the second year, they introduced different bits of software as well. So we learned a bit about Flash, Adobe After Effects, Audition, and 3ds Max. And the third year, you had to do a dissertation, which was like a 10,000 word essay. And then you could concentrate on your short animated film. So I chose to do it using 3ds Max, and it was amazing because you come up with your own story, and you went through creative, storyboarding, creating all the assets, all the way through to the animation, editing, sound design, everything. So I did that, and I did it with 3ds Max, and spent a lot of time in my room back in our uni digs making my short film. And that was it. That was the wrap. That was the end of university. I came out with a first degree honours and submitted my film, and it won a Royal Television Award. And then after that, it was all about trying to get my first steps into the industry. It's worth saying that when I went to university, there weren't as many online options or opportunities to learn animation or illustration or motion graphics. So YouTube wasn't even a thing yet because I'm really, really old, and there weren't as many online courses. So nowadays, if I was thinking about going to animation, would I go to university? I probably still would, because I think it suited me really well, and having that focus and 3 years just concentrating on animation was really worthwhile. But that said, the online courses nowadays and the free tutorials you can find online are really good value, and as long as you can put the commitment in and find the time to learn, you can definitely still go that route successfully. I also had a lot of fun at uni, so as well as learning those cool skills and getting introduced into animation, I made some really good friends, drank too much, partied a lot, had a lot of fun, grew up, but yeah, survived university and came out with a route into animation and eventually a studio.
So then, how did you get your first industry experience?
So yeah, fresh out of uni, obviously I needed to make some money just to survive. So I was working part-time in an art shop that I'd worked at most of the time throughout uni. So I was still working there, and then in my spare time, I'd be improving my showreel, improving my 3D skills and 2D skills, and submitting to basically every animation studio I could find, trying to get in contact with anyone. I'd go to the odd animation festival and try and speak to people, and I was pitching for whatever freelance work I could find online that I thought I might be a good fit for. And this is before a lot of freelancer websites were around, so I found some jobs via, I think, mandy.com and some others from Shooting People. Both sites are still around, but there's obviously a load of other options now. But yeah, so I managed to win a few jobs that way and did some animations for different councils and had a few interviews, one at Pinewood Studios to try and work on as a runner at the 3D Captain Scarlet they were making. I had one at a game studio, and then I had an interview at a company in London called Teleimagination that were making a different selection of 2D series for Europe. And there was a feature film called Petson and Findus. So I got a job on there doing cleanup and colour work. So I'd commute up from Southampton every day into London, walk over the bridge into Soho, and then sit there all day at my Wacom tablet, cleaning up someone else's drawings and filling it with colour to make all these frames for the series and films that they were working on. And I was there for about a year and a half. And you know, that gained some experience. It's quite a repetitive job, but it was fun. You could listen to an audiobook, and I got quite good at reading books and commuting on the train. But yeah, it got me that year and a half experience. So when I was then applying for future jobs, it made it all the easier. And then eventually I got a job at a company called Shoot You, and I was there for 8-9 years, and I sort of went in at junior animator level, and then by the time I left, I'd learned a ton of editing, After Effects, more 3D work, how to manage production, deal with clients and quotes, and got to travel around the world a bit to South Africa, Barcelona, Prague, and different places to do some on-site editing and animation. And then after that, I took the big step to move down to the southwest and start my own studio.
Why did you decide to start your own studio?
I guess I'd always had this ambition, always had this vision that I would run a studio. And even when I had my job interview at the previous company at Shoot You, I even said during the interviews that I want to build my own company. And then 9 years later, I left and came down here into the southwest and started Stormy Studio. And I think I just wanted to do it because I was keen to see what I could do, run my own business, try and put my own creative input into projects more, and make my own bad and good business decisions.
So how did you go about starting your own studio?
Deciding to start my own animation studio definitely took a good few years. It was always on the back burner as an idea that I wanted to aspire to do, but getting the confidence to do it and trying to decide when the time was right was definitely a challenge. I had this ongoing job at this studio, and that came with dependable work, job security, and I had a young family. My daughter had just been born. It was a case of combining that with wanting to move down to the southwest and live by the coast, up sticks, moved down here to a small house, and for the first year I worked remotely from a tiny box room in our house for the studio I was working at. And then after a year, I finally handed my notice in and went all in on starting Stormy Studio.
Is it recording now? Phoebe, come out the way, please.
Which was nerve-wracking, very exciting, and for the first few months, I was there working on the website, improving the portfolio, showreel, trying to learn about SEO and more marketing and get used to quoting. And I'd be up early in the morning with my son, giving him breakfast, and then at the same point, whilst he's happy playing somewhere, I'd be there writing a quick quote for a job that I'd find online, pitching to do some animation for a business. And the early ones were mostly low budget, but some of them led to repeat business, and slowly over time got more and more work. And then eventually I advertised for some remote freelancers who were in the local area so that they could eventually work in a studio space with me. It would free me up to concentrate on growing the business or complete some other projects myself, which would bring in a little bit more money and speed up the process of gaining a reputation for quality work. And then eventually decided to spend a few £100 renting an office space 10 minutes down the road from my house, just to give some separation from home and work, even though I was probably still spending most evenings on my laptop.
Good morning, Christoph, from John and Emma in Devon. We're very excited today as we get the keys to our new animation studio in Plymouth.
Heavens to Betsy.
I know. Good morning to anybody. Let's do that far for now, shall we? Keys. Anybody getting new keys to something this weekend?
But yeah, just having this space, and it was a small, cheap office with no exterior windows. Had some windows, but they looked into a warehouse. But there was enough space for 5 or 6 desks to have freelancers come and work in, and we made a little space to play around with VR technology. Yes, that was really cool, and it was cheap. The bills were cheap, but it was nice to start actually having a physical space that I could call a studio. And then eventually, after 2 or 3 years, we moved office again to this studio here. We were upstairs, which had a rooftop terrace, and we've since COVID moved downstairs. We've got a film studio space, kitchen, and space for, maybe there's space for 10 desks. The other companies on the site are doing autonomous submarines and other marine-based activities. So there's normally a crane winching some big submarine into the water. So it's a cool location for a small studio, and the rent is realistically still pretty cheap. And as you can tell, over the years, it's evolved, and I'm sure it all continues to do the same.
How long has your studio been going?
So Stormy Studio has now been going just over 7 years, and it's had ups and downs, but it's basically on the up. We charge more money than we used to, and we get regular projects and repeat business, and we've got very nice clients and a nice small team. It's much quieter on site since COVID, so we've downsized the studio and I've got much better at working remotely with people. And really, we keep the studio around because I like it for doing stuff like this, for start a studio, and it's nice to have producers come in and hang out with a small team, but we are getting much better at working remotely.
What skills or software do you use in your day-to-day?
So for animation production, we use a lot of the Adobe Creative Suite. So we'll use Adobe After Effects to bring most of the motion together. Sometimes we'll create a project entirely in After Effects using shape layers and text, but normally it'll be combined with assets or characters or environments made in Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop. We'll use Audition to balance any audio and edit any audio from voiceovers, and we'll pull it all together in Adobe Premiere, possibly apply a color grade, play around with music and just get the edit locked down. And yeah, those are our main tools. If it's a 3D project, we'll use Cinema 4D. If we're working with a remote freelancer, they might use 3ds Max, but yeah, typically we lean towards Cinema 4D. For any frame-by-frame animation, we'll use Adobe Animate, or if it's a remote freelancer and they've got the software, they'll use TV Paint, which I love TV Paint. One day I will actually put the time in to use it myself. And then we use Procreate on an iPad Pro for sketching out storyboards and rough designs, which is a lovely bit of software, and you can use it on a sofa, which is cool. As for marketing and sales, we use our CRM, so our customer relationship manager is HubSpot, so we use that just to deal with any inquiries and try and do some quick replies, and it just helps us be a bit more efficient. For quotes and contracts, we use PandaDocs, which I'm a big fan of, and if possible, I'll share a link, an affiliate link for this, so we'll get a little kickback if you do go on to sign up for PandaDocs. But it's cool just because we can create these templates for your quotes and quickly respond to an inquiry with a professional looking quote with a breakdown of all the costs, and you can share it with your client, and then you can see how long they spent on different pages, and it lets you do e-signatures. So we use it for contracts as well, and more we're actually using it to quickly share some style frames. As for skills, I guess being able to do good project management, being able to liaise well with both any designers, animators, or your client is really useful. So also having a broad understanding of the production process. So if you understand a bit about the 2D, the editing, the audio, and 3D animation, it's being able to pick and choose, so you can commission freelancers to do bits for projects is really useful. And also in turn being able to convey that to a client so you can help solve their problems and try and bring it in on budget for them and for you. So that's really useful and important. some of our producers, it's great that they're so organised so that they can keep an eye on a project and keep tabs on animators and see where production pipelines are, and keep clients informed and ensure we remain on schedule for delivering any projects. Also, I think making sure that you have some creative freedom, don't be too much of it, and let your animators or designers pursue their own art styles or ideas. And also this works for your studio's marketing and pitching for clients, putting forward a slightly more creative idea, an idea that you might want to do yourself. And it might be they'll come back and go, no, we want to take the safer option, this is exactly what we want. But at least it keeps work interesting, and now and again those projects will come off, and it stops work feeling like a day job, so you can actually enjoy the process of running and building a studio.
What's the future for Stormy Studio?
The future for Stormy Studio, I'm not sure, because I'm really enjoying the Starter Studio stuff, helping other people form studios and try and help them grow. We've got repeat business and producers that manage projects here, so I guess I see it carrying on much the same, and as the studio continues to gain its reputation, we can charge more money, do more exciting projects, turn down the more boring projects. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see where it goes. Sometimes I'm like, I want to stop doing client work and concentrate on a creative of our own and pitch some TV series or make some short film and try and win some awards.
What's your favourite animation project you've produced so far?
One of my favourite projects. So I guess in year 2 or 3 of Stormy Studio, I'd been going to these breakfast networking sessions. So you get up at 6:30 and go and have a fried breakfast so early that you don't really want it, but you get to network with other businesses in the local area. And I did it for a couple of months until I decided maybe it wasn't really worthwhile, wasn't really the right sort of businesses that I was networking with. But it did lead to a connection with a local web design company, and then they in turn got in touch later on about a client they had who wanted a film. And that led to this Thinking Differently project for a company called Weatherhead. And we made this a cool film project. I was really into my filming at the time. I managed to cast my own kids in it, and they earned some money which has gone into their bank accounts, and got to do some animation. And it's really fun to be able to do this whole concept, creative concept, mixing film and animation, and I really enjoyed it. Had a small crew, and it came together really well, and the client was over the moon. And it's led to an ongoing relationship with the client, and it's just a really nice piece of work, and we still show it on the front page of our website today. And the funny thing is my son who's in it, who turns up with a balloon and ties it on with his sister, and they straighten the house up. For ages, he watched that video and he had it on his iPad, and he'd watch it and think it actually happened, and that we just happened to be filming it, and that what a nice kid he was because he turned up with a balloon. But yeah, so that's definitely my favourite project.
What's happening next for Stormy Studio?
So yeah, what's next? At the moment, we're doing multiple projects for clients. We're doing things for the local police force, and there's all these creatives and there's different quotes out and about. So there's lots of client projects on the go, and then there's Starter Studio, which I'm trying to put more effort into the YouTube channel and do more course content. And we've got the community for Starter Studio to help out animators. And then very new, only went live last week, is motion.jobs website, where the first iteration's up there, and we're going to refine it and try and work out the best way to make it work. But it's a job site where clients can post their animation projects, good projects with a reasonable budget, and they'll be connected up with studios of a certain size and quality who can then submit pitches and they can liaise. So basically it's a jobs board for animation projects, but we're going to try and keep it to like a high quality for small studios.
Thanks very much. And lastly, where can everyone find you online?
You can find me here on our channel where we're posting this video. So you can find me at YouTube /Starter Studio, on Twitter at Stormy Studio, I think, and just go to starterstudio.com. Thanks very much. Oh, and Motion Jobs. Cheers. Thank you.